Phony. Phony. And totally weird. Gavin's hands. It's time for Gavin's hands.
The notion of agency, that we're not bystanders in the world. It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future. And that fundamental notion of agency, I think, is important more broadly. And I think that goes to some of the issues around, victimization. And I see a lot of that, respectively, on the right, increasingly, even with Trump often approaching things from that sort of mind.
Gavin Newsom walks in like California's own version of James Bond. Smooth, self-assured, and loaded with enough hair gel to outlast a full-blown hurricane. He carries himself like nothing can touch him, soaking up attention as if the spotlight was designed just for his grand entrance. But then Tyrus steps in, a towering force of a man built like a linebacker and delivering words that hit like pure truth bombs. The moment Tyrus speaks, even the cameras seem to lock in place. This isn't just criticism, it's a verbal takedown so sharp it feels like it could cut deep. And believe this, things are only getting more intense from here.
Tyrus?
What I saw,
Yeah.
what it looked to me like he was negotiating with a deaf prostitute.
With a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
California glows like the ultimate American postcard. Sunshine, beaches, and non-stop glamour everywhere you look. It's a place where mornings begin with ocean waves and nights shine under rooftop lights, with kale smoothies always in hand. But the moment you look past that shiny surface, the illusion starts to crack fast. The so-called Golden State suddenly feels less like a dream and more like a chaotic Netflix documentary spiraling out of control.
Go back and watch the tape.
Yes!
He literally goes, I want some of this, then you do some of this, and I'll do some of that back to you, and then we'll do this, and then I'll pay you, and then we'll do it again.
True.
And then she kept saying, no. Okay, how about this? You do this one first, then we do this one, then we give a little back and forth.
If this takedown is hitting the mark, make sure to tap that subscribe button. It helps more than you realize. The streets now look like scenes pulled straight out of Mad Max. Taxes slam down harder than a heavyweight punch, and people are leaving the state like it's a full-speed Olympic sprint. Right in the middle of all that chaos stands Gavin Newsom, looking like he just stepped off a GQ cover, flawless hair, perfect smile, and completely out of touch. While everyone else struggles to keep up, he stands untouched, like the crisis around him is nothing more than background noise for his next photo shoot.
Tyrus, did he leave out anything? I think there's about 100 other reasons too.
Well, you can't, it's not his words when he speaks.
Yeah.
You have to watch him closely. And some genius decided not to film him any lower than the shoulder.
Yes, did you? Yes.
So what did he do?
You couldn't see the hands.
No, but he sent Morse code.
He delivers speeches like he's the star of a big Hollywood film. Dramatic pauses, bold hand movements, and that confident smile shouting, "Trust me, everything's under control." But here's the twist. While Newsom plays the lead role, the whole show has turned into one long blooper reel. Homelessness keeps rising. Businesses are escaping like it's an emergency evacuation. And everyday people are left wondering why they're paying Beverly Hills prices to live in something that feels like a dark Gotham-style sequel.
I'll be in the car.
Yes, I think you've done enough this evening. You can take the rest of the week off.
Thank you.
Charlie, I don't
We've
know
all
if
been there, right?
Yes, we have. Yeah, it's noisy in the
Sorry,
city.
every time I look, I just see him going. I'm sorry.
You know, another option it could be, because he's doing the whole rebrand with the podcast and he's trying to...
Then Tyrus steps in, and this is where things truly heat up. He's not here to soften the message or rehearse polished lines. He delivers raw truth with the force of a heavyweight punch. Where Newsom brings smooth polish, Tyrus brings hard grit. Where Newsom shows off perfect hair, Tyrus drops blunt reality checks. Picture this, Newsom walking into the spotlight, chest out, hair shining like it has its own lighting, proudly talking about California's golden progress. Meanwhile, San Francisco and Los Angeles, once proud highlights, now feel like open-air experiments gone wrong. Tyrus doesn't dress it up. He cuts straight through the illusion. How can a place called Paradise look like a real-life zombie movie? Newsom promised something close to perfection, but what people see now feels more like a scene from The Walking Dead.
Or he's negotiating with the deaf prostitute.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with that.
Yeah. More likely.
Yeah.
Maybe you can fix California while you stop by. 2 shows, you should be able to do that.
Hey, you know what? Real funny. So the other night, I got like 3 weeks ago. Time flies when you work. I get a text at 2 o'clock in the morning from the president who says, "Hey, bro, I just filled California up with water. Governor's pissed and sent pictures. LOL post." Who doesn't love this president?
Let's talk business, because there was a time when California stood as the crown jewel of innovation. Silicon Valley, Hollywood, Napa Valley. This was the ultimate dream destination. But under Newsom's leadership, companies are leaving faster than contestants, realizing the Bachelor still lives with his parents. Headquarters disappear, jobs vanish, and they're all heading to Texas, Florida, even Nevada. Imagine choosing desert heat over California taxes. That alone says everything. And who calls it out? Tyrus, of course. He looks at this massive exit and says what everyone's already thinking. If people are running from paradise, maybe it's not paradise anymore. Remember when Newsom told everyone to stay home, wear masks, and sacrifice for the greater good? Regular people were stretching supplies, cutting their own hair. As in attending funerals through screens, while Newsom sat enjoying dinner with lobbyists under glowing chandeliers like a scene out of The Great Gatsby.
Back and watch it. Look at the blinking. Blink. Look. Meet me at the house. Like, he's blinking. He's sending. I'm getting there. Hey, just so you know, I'm not wearing pants.
Ew.
And then look, he's blinking, and then eventually the camera guy, realizing that he's signaling him, so he gets appalled, leans back, camera comes down, and then we're back to this. I'll do this for you, you do this for me a little. So he's saying whatever he's going to say. There it is, see? They couldn't hold him back. He's like, I'm not on film. Oh, I'm not, nope. Oh.
That dinner moment turned into the perfect symbol of his leadership. Strict rules for everyone else, special treatment for the one in charge. And Tyrus doesn't just bring it up, he tears into it with sharp humor. He describes it so clearly you can almost hear the glasses clinking. While regular people were stuck at home eating reheated meals in sweatpants, Newsom was swirling fine wine and saying, "We're all in this together." The contradiction feels almost unreal, but Tyrus doesn't stop there. He doesn't rely on polls or scripted talking points. He lays it out plainly. Homelessness rising fast, crime climbing, gas prices hitting hard. California doesn't feel like a dream anymore. It feels like a burden, and people listen because he's not throwing out numbers. He's talking about real life. He's not spinning stories. He's sharing truth with humor and straight up honesty.
Well, speaking of full of isn't it? I'm sorry, I'm confused. He's still governor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he could do something about it. That's the most irritating thing, is like, why did anyone say with a follow-up where he's like, the homeless situation is ridiculous? Follow-up question, aren't you the governor?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. That's the difference between the radical left and President Trump. He'll talk about something as it's being.
The reaction, absolutely unbelievable. On one side, everyday people are nodding along, relieved that someone finally said what's been on their minds for years. On the other side, critics rush in, throwing out excuses, defending Newsom, or brushing Tyrus off as just an entertainer. But here's the twist. When a guy known for body slams starts making more sense than the leader of the largest state in the country, that says everything. Tyrus doesn't need polished data or political spin. He just points at the mess and says what everyone already feels. This isn't working. Newsom keeps presenting California as a shining example of success and opportunity, but step just a little off Rodeo Drive and the illusion falls apart. The surface is cracked, the glow is fading. And the so-called future looks like it's barely holding together with quick fixes and denial.
He's playing with us. Meet me at my house. You get mine. I get yours. It'll work out.
Paul, are they capable of soul searching? It feels like the party itself has no soul.
Yeah, I know, they have no soul. You know, it's a really interesting statement. If you just kind of, you can break it in two. He spends the whole first part of that saying, we lost because this. Essentially what he says is, Folks, we were on the wrong side of every issue last.
Tyrus slices through the shiny illusion like a blade cutting clean through glass. He isn't distracted by drone shots of beaches or flashy skylines. He focuses on what never gets shown. The tents lined up under highways, the shuttered stores crushed by endless rules, and families forced to choose between paying rent or setting up a tent and calling it camping with benefits. And here's the harsh truth. If dysfunction were a sport, California would be taking home the trophy every time. Then comes the biggest example of all, Newsom himself. It's one thing to lead during chaos and admit the cracks, but it's another to act untouchable while slipping away to luxury dinners as everyday people struggle just to grab a simple coffee under strict limits.
He's going to go up and say, listen, I'm going to sign an executive order to stop homelessness, and here's how we're going to do it. Bam, 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 done. The border, done. 5 days later, 99%, no one's crossed. They're standing at the border like, you go. No, that you go. Like, no one wants to go.
That infamous dinner, where Newsom sat comfortably with lobbyists in a Michelin star restaurant, wasn't just controversy, it was a full display of arrogance. While people across California were told to cancel weddings, funerals, and even family gatherings, he was enjoying rich meals like the rules didn't apply to him. And Tyrus never lets that moment fade. He brings it up like solid evidence in a courtroom. The ultimate rules for others, not for me situation. People don't forget being penalized for rules their own leader ignored. And that kind of behavior doesn't just frustrate, it sparks real anger. Tyrus doesn't need to exaggerate anything. He paints the picture so clearly you can almost see the glowing lights, hear the laughter, and imagine the luxury menu, while everyone else stayed home trying to learn new recipes. Oh, this wasn't just out of touch. It felt like a direct insult to the people he was meant to lead.
Gavin, I know him very well. He's incompetent. He's a nice guy, looks good. Hi, everybody, how you doing? He's got some strange hand action going. I don't know what the hell is his problem. It's a little weird, to be honest. There's a little something shaky going on there.
I came into that recall campaign still arguing that all politics is local. I still had a romantic notion of that. I intellectualized that a lot of our politics and the discourse was national. I didn't fully appreciate how nationalized our politics have become. In so many ways, that shape-shifted a lot of what we're doing and who I am today. But this last year, these last 6-7 months, this is something altogether different.
That's what makes Tyrus's style hit so hard. He's not just venting, he's making people laugh while they nod along in full agreement. Because when things get this absurd, sometimes laughter is the only way people cope. But behind every joke, Tyrus reveals something real. California's issues aren't just numbers, they're everyday struggles for millions. Rising crime means parents feel uneasy letting their kids walk alone. Gas prices climb so high that even a short drive feels expensive. Homeless camps keep spreading into places that once felt safe and normal. That's the real impact. It's not headlines, it's real lives. You can polish speeches all day, but results speak louder, and California's situation is making noise. Tyrus shines a light on problems many avoid, showing that you don't need complicated words to speak the truth. You just need the courage to say it out loud.
Yeah, his hands are just weird though, Tyrus. They're always doing funky things.
Yeah, I thought it had something to do with the California budget cuts and stuff, since they didn't have a hearing impaired transitioner anymore. I'm not paying money for that. I'll do it myself.
Tyrus reminds everyone that California still holds incredible beauty and huge potential, but somehow it struggles to keep the lights on during a simple heat wave. The state proudly claims to be the world's 5th largest economy, yet families are leaving for places like Arizona just to afford basic groceries. His straightforward, no-filter style hits hard because he talks like someone you'd meet at a gas station, shaking his head at rising prices while questioning the latest move from the governor. That's exactly why people listen, because he sounds real and relatable. They're living through this chaos every single day, and when Tyrus says it out loud, it feels like validation. He doesn't ignore the problem, he points right at it, laughs, and says what's obvious. Maybe it's time to stop pretending California is the perfect model. Maybe it's time to admit that the shiny image isn't real, and maybe, just maybe, it's time for leaders who focus on fixing problems instead of posing for cameras.
So, a
little bit of bubble.
Yeah.
Nice. Could you imagine if you were the sign person for the TV going...
No, he was
He reminds me there of, remember the guy who did the sign language at Mandela's funeral?
That's why Tyrus's call out lands with real force. It's not about politics, it's about reality hitting hard. No polished speeches, no filters, just straight truth delivered with sharp humor and edge. He reminds everyone that no matter how much spin gets thrown around, people can still see what's happening with their own eyes. The beaches may still shine under the sun, but you pass rows of tents just to reach them. California still sparkles on the surface, but that shine is fading quickly under the pressure of high taxes, rising crime, and constant chaos. Thanks to Tyrus, the cracks in that perfect image are impossible to ignore now. He shows that leadership isn't about looking flawless or sounding smooth. It's about being accountable, and under Newsom, it feels like the state has been running more on image than direction. The most striking part? People aren't even surprised anymore. The scandals, the double standards, the repeated hypocrisy, it all feels like just another ordinary day in the Golden State.
I was in the White House, this is one of the first things I would do. Clean up your streets. Instead of sending our military men and women out to other places to make other countries safe, make our streets safe. How is this an argument? If you don't like it, what's not to like? Other than that you have to tip your hat to the orange devil. That's the problem. Then you know what? Find a way, like make it your own. Like, no, you will not bring in 1,500 National Guards. We will only allow 1,200. And then call it a victory. Clean up your neighborhoods. Leave the politicians out to go out on the ocean, on the waterfront at 6 o'clock in the morning. But notice he wasn't filming himself.
When Tyrus goes in, the illusion completely falls apart. The humor makes it easier to take in, but the impact sticks long after the laughs fade. And here's where things really shift. If Tyrus can break down Newsom's polished image with just a few sharp lines, what happens when more voices start doing the same? What happens when that Hollywood shine finally disappears, revealing broken promises, empty stores, and leaders more focused on image than real people? California may still look perfect on social media, but Tyrus strips away the filter, and now the unedited version is impossible to ignore. Once that illusion is gone, no speech can rebuild it. People aren't buying the dream anymore. They're living the reality every single day. And Tyrus says what many have been quietly thinking. The dream is cracking, the image is fading, and the truth is out in the open. His blunt honesty cuts deeper than any campaign message because it feels real. And if one voice can shake things this much, imagine what happens when more people speak up. The cracks spread, and suddenly California stops looking like a dream and starts looking like a warning. Tyrus didn't create the chaos. He just pulled back the curtain. And now everyone can finally see what's been hidden all along.
Well, speaking of full of I'm sorry, I'm confused. He's still governor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he could do something about it. That's the most irritating thing, is like, why did anyone say with a follow-up where he's like, the homeless situation is ridiculous? Follow-up question, aren't you the governor?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. That's the difference between the radical left and President Trump. He'll talk about something as it's being.
So this is where everything lands. The illusion is gone, the shine is breaking, and the truth is fully exposed in the open. Tyrus didn't rewrite California's story. He simply read it out loud, piece by piece, in a way no politician ever could. His blend of humor and hard truth cuts through the noise, forcing people to face what's been ignored for far too long. Newsom can't smooth this over anymore. The photo ops, the practice smiles, the magazine-ready image, it all starts to fall apart under real pressure, because now people see it clearly, a polished performance covering a failing script. And that's where Tyrus stands out. He doesn't need to shout, he just speaks plainly, and it hits louder than any speech. People may laugh, but deep down they recognize it. It's truth wrapped in sharp humor. California still calls itself the Golden State. But the shine feels thinner and the cracks stand out more than ever. Tyrus didn't just call out one leader. He exposed a system that's been running low for far too long. And once you see it, you can't ignore it anymore. The spotlight has shifted, the curtain has dropped, and now reality is front and center, and it's far from perfect.